Welcome to Do You Approve This Groove, a project where two old friends dive headfirst into the 500 greatest albums of all time and beyond. We're going to relive them like we're trading the ultimate mixtape, one legendary record at a time. Each episode, we take a deep dive into iconic albums, rediscover their magic, and see if they hold up after all of these years. We'll rank each album and open up our hot takes for discussion. So whether you're hearing it for the first time or for the 100th, whether you agree or disagree, we're turning the volume up and bringing you along for the ride. In this episode, we shift formats and take a look at 5 albums from 430 through 426 on the Rolling Stone Greatest Albums of All Time list. This set of albums is mostly meh, but Tyler hands out his second 5-rated album on the list. Took a long detour during our What Else We're Listening To segment, and the stands will still come for us, but we still don't like Bad Bunny. I'm Tyler and he's Kyle. Let's get to it.
All right, here we are back again. Tyler, it's been a couple of weeks. We pushed off recording once. You know, we've been trying to go every 10 days, but it's been 2 weeks. We've just been both pretty busy with stuff. But we cut down to 5 albums here today too. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a different, interesting conversation. But what's been going on your end?
I mean, I feel like I was just thinking out loud about how like this isn't supposed to be work. It's supposed to be fun. So the 5 albums is a nice kind of meet in the middle there. So this doesn't feel onerous, because I think one of the things I'm finding is that when I don't have a personal tie, well, how do I put it? I guess when I don't have a personal tie and I'm not very or at all familiar with it, I'm far less motivated to really... No, it's the other way. When I don't have a personal tie, but I am kind of familiar with it, I don't have motivation to, like, get into it. Oh. If it's brand new and something I've never heard, I'm interested. But, like, I mean, we'll talk about... Well, yeah, we're going to talk about two people, I guess, on this list where I was like, another one? Okay. You know, when the first go around, I wasn't that interested. So... yeah, so, you know, it's not totally work, but just been busy. Family stuff, work stuff. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, same. Just work, family. We're kind of wrapping up our winter sports season here, so it's been the last push of, you know, wrestling tournaments and cheerleading competitions have just been pulling me every which way. I get what you mean with... you're not super or you're sort of familiar with, makes it harder to kind of, because you're like, whatever. But when you're totally unfamiliar, you have at least a little bit of curiosity that might push you into it. And I actually just thought about it this afternoon. I was taking the dog for a walk, which is when I usually get my best thinking done. I think this is, and you just mentioned it, I think this is the first time, I could be wrong, but I think this is the first chunk of albums that we're talking about tonight that feature the second entry of somebody that we've previously listened to, and there's 2 of them tonight.
Right.
Which is
right.
Kind of interesting. I'll be interested to hear what you thought of both of those, because
I don't think much. Let's put it that way. No. No. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Shall we? Let's get into it. All right. So, starting tonight off with the 430th greatest album of all time. This is the second entry from Bad Bunny. Un Verano Sin Ti. This album was released on May 6th of 2022. Extremely recent. Bad Bunny is from Puerto Rico. The Dominican Republic is part of the studio he was in. This features reggaeton, cumbia, and indie pop. There are a ton of producers on this album. This album has a lot working against it as far as I'm concerned. It is an hour and 21 minutes, and I take full responsibility of this. This is no one's fault. Bad Bunny owes me nothing. This is in a language I don't understand. So, yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah, so I didn't tell you about this, but the last time we talked about Bad Bunny, I felt like we were very diplomatic. So
Sure.
I clipped up the last discussion we had about Bad Bunny and posted it to our TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And we got eviscerated for our opinion
Good.
of Bad Bunny. And so keeping that in mind, I'm going to go out of my way to reiterate and try and make the point maybe a little bit clearer.
Sure.
This was not for me. Like, I don't think 40-year-old white guys in upstate New York are the target audience for this.
Correct.
And I think that's perfectly okay. That's not to say that there's anything bad necessarily or wrong about this album, but this was just not for me. It wasn't made for me, and it wasn't received well by me. I didn't like it. I personally can get into uh, albums in a foreign language. I sometimes it's actually kind of fun to revert to just listening to the voice as an instrument. And that's enjoyable in a lot of ways. And I can also connect with music that is, simple and uncomplicated and even boring if the lyrics are good and powerful and deep. But this wasn't any of those things for me. I got the sense that the music was a vehicle for the vocals, and the
Mm-hmm.
vocals didn't do anything for me. Maybe this is a decent record to play in the summer if you're at the beach or something and it's on a playlist, but even then I'd just be like, no thanks. Not for me.
I just looked up the comments on the TikTok. They weren't that bad,
Oh,
but
oh, I deleted a good dozen. Yeah.
oh,
They were
nice,
they
nice.
like I get the differing opinions and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There were people who were cutthroat, like
Went for
who,
us. Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna argue with people, but I'm just
Of course
get
not. That's
just
not what
delete
this
them.
is for.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're too old to argue on the internet. Um, no, I mean, kind of like you said, like I don't enjoy it. I was reading about the lyrical content and about how there's a lot more depth to his lyrics than many of the pop songs. That's an unfair characterization too. People have remarked positively on his lyrical content in this album, right? On the themes that he talks about, um, which kind of remind me of. At least this is how I think about it. I just saw a meme recently about Motion City soundtrack and how I don't remember exactly what the pictures was, but essentially it was like I don't know. Imagine like a very dark scene from Lord of the Rings, right? And the caption was like Motion City's lyrics, and then like the a picture of a sunny day in the Shire from the same movie is like Motion City's music, right? Like
mm-hmm.
like the lyrics don't they betray the pop glowy fun sort of musical themes. So I got the sense that this was the same sort of thing in this album. Um, I it's not that I don't respect it. I do respect it. Just don't like it. Like
Sure.
it's as simple as that. Um, we are in the minority when it comes to this. I did see one of the comments on the TikTok said that he's very overrated, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, there
Um,
was one supportive person there.
yeah, I mean this album was 13 weeks on the top of the charts. It won Best Urban Music Album at the Grammys, and became the first Spanish language album to earn a nomination for Album of the Year. So hey, good for you, Bad Bunny. Um, I mean, it won a lot. It won a lot of awards. But musically, like you said, for me, this isn't what I search for. This isn't what resonates with me. Um, I don't have the context for a lot of it. I don't know. We've talked about this before with other albums. I can't identify things in it that stand out in the way that many music fans of this genre, especially, would be able to. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
just not for me.
I saw a lot of talk about how, there's a lot of blending of genres in his
Hmm.
music, but if I'm not familiar with those genres, then I don't pick up on that. sort of thing. So yeah.
Right. And like I started saying off, like he owes me nothing.
Yeah.
He owes us nothing.
Yeah.
Do your thing, man. Go for it. Proud of you. Happy for you. Were there any songs that you thought stuck out to you, or like you said? I mean, to me, they all sound very, very similar. And I will say that I think it was the first song when I started listening to it. I was like, oh, this is different. This is different. This is different. And then it went right into that reggaeton beat. And I was like, it's not different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's what bugged me, and what I meant when I said, it felt like the music is a vehicle to serve up the vocals, which when you don't understand the vocals, the music better be interesting, at least. And that's, again, that's not fair. This music probably is very interesting to its intended audience, but to me, it's very just repetitive and just over and over again. There's not a whole lot of interesting stuff. There's not a lot of variation in there.
Right. It's an hour and 21 minutes. And I'm sure as a piece, he's quoted as saying that this album he views it as a playlist. Like you mentioned, that you can put it on at the beach and just kind of vibe away, and that's all you need. Not for me.
Nope.
I'm all set. So, anything else?
No.
What'd you score it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you give it a score? I gave it a 2, I guess.
I would be kind and give it a 2. I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm going to get anything else out of it. I don't know. Do your worst Bad Bunny fans. I wonder what his fans are called, if they have like a nickname. I'm going to see if I can find out. All right. So his fans often refer to themselves as Bad Bunny stans. That's it. They don't really have an official name. That's a missed opportunity. Like they could have been Rabbit's Feet or Bunny Tails or Hop Hops or something. Whatever. Anyways, that was Bad Bunny's Un Verano Sin Ti at 4:30. The 429th album, greatest album of all time, was released in July of 1967 from the wonderful group, I don't know what they're called, the Four Tops. The album is entitled Reach Out. This is their 5th studio album and the group's biggest selling studio album. It includes 6 of the Four Tops' most successful singles. It's short. It's like 33 minutes long, 12 songs, so it's a quick hitter. It comes from Motown Records, not from the studios Hitsville, USA, Detroit. So yeah, this is squarely in the Motown that sound and era, which I think is great. Kyle, what'd you think of this one? We have a long history of you bashing Motown, so
I love how
I have a lot of thoughts on this one. So
I love how my just kind of general disinterest in Motown has morphed into my bashing of it.
You really wish that the whole genre would be erased in a fire.
Gone, just gone.
Yeah. That wing of the Library of Congress can burn down.
This was easily my favorite Motown album that we've listened to so far.
As it should be.
Handily. Like this was really good. This had a very classic feel, like especially in its arrangements and the song structures. It had a very classic feel, but felt a little bit more full of soul. The bass on this was everywhere. I went back and re-listened to this actually a couple of times to get ready, just because this was one of those where I just kind of laid in bed and put my headphones on and just was listening into particular instruments as I was listening through it, and just the bass every single time was just so much fun to listen to. And the Four Tops are one of those bands that before listening to this, I could tell you one Four Tops song. Not that I didn't know other Four Tops songs, but there was always just the one that I knew that was them, and Sugar Pie Honey Bunch. And I like that's not my thing. That and so when I saw the Four Tops, I was like, it's gonna, like the kind of, kind of poppy 60s stuff like that I don't, that sort of thing I didn't really care for. This had a whole lot more going on, and I really enjoyed this album.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Motown genre in general, for a lot of reasons. One, because I appreciate the music, the arrangements, like you said, the instrumentation, and two, because of nostalgia. Um, if I may regale you with a quick tale,
Mm-hmm.
in the summer of sixth to seventh grade, um, I told you this is the summer that we tore down half my house, and my dad and I like rebuilt the that other half of it. You know, made it basically an addition, but
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have been. We just tore down half the house and rebuilt it because it needed to be. And that was the summer of oldies radio, not classic rock radio, oldies radio. And I have like the greatest core memory. We tore off the roof and the back, and then we reframed everything around it over the old kitchen. And then when we had everything enclosed, because we had the kitchen still needed to be usable,
Mm-hmm.
we took apart the ceilings of the kitchen inside the frame of the new house, right? So to do that, because we had everything set up in the kitchen, I actually like got up on the rafters and my dad made me sweep off the attic side of the ceiling that we were going to take down so
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't get everything falling into the kitchen, right? And I was so like mad, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, we're going to tear this down in 2 hours, anyways. And then the song Bernadette came on. And it was one of the first times that I remember, like, listening to music and having it totally clash with how I was feeling in a way that I was just, like, stupidly, like, leaning into this.
Mm-hmm.
And I will cut Bernadette in here. But I just remember thinking, like, this is the dumbest song I've. First of all, Bernadette? Bernadette. I. Like, I had my dad laughing. So it was one of those things where I know that he was, like, annoyed with me because of my 12-year-old, like, attitude. And then I immediately had him just laughing because I was up there just going, like, over and over, and that lasted for probably a week, whether the song was playing or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not hear that song for a long time, and then it made a resurgence in my life when I like kind of remembered it and played it. It is one of my favorite songs of all time for nostalgia and because of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I played it for my daughters, and my oldest daughter's takeaway was I was like, listen to him. This is a song of longing. Bernadette, you're the soul of me. Like, those other, they'll never be what I like. No, like, and she just goes, man, he's yelling. I said, yes, he is. Um, he doesn't really sing this song. Like, it's got that quarter note snare, and it just moves along, and Bernadette. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it just goes, and then it gets to the greatest section of bridge of any song ever, where it's just everything drowns out. You hear the harmonies, ah, and then
Yeah.
it comes back. Oh, for no reason
Yep.
whatsoever. Oh God,
That
it
that
is the greatest.
that false
I
ending.
don't know if you
Yeah.
were there. I don't know if you were there, but this was the last song played at my wedding reception. I don't know if you're still there, but
I
this is
don't.
the
Yeah.
last song that was played,
Hmm.
and deservedly so.
Yeah.
So on that alone, I give this a 5. Like, this album kicks so much ass. I mean, "Standing in the Shadows of Love" is another, it very much in the same vein as Bernadette. Like, it's an emo song in a Motown body. Like, it's great. I mean, we can't not talk about "Reach Out and I'll Be There," which is
Mm-hmm.
probably, well, it was the first single and probably one of their most known songs.
Yeah.
Um, this album kicks ass.
So then, I mean, it sounds like you like a lot of these songs. So why don't you FMK it?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: I'm gonna F and M Bernadette,
Okay.
like both of them. Like,
Yeah.
this is a love at first sight. Like, we got it, we're
Yep.
set for life. Um, and then honestly, I would kill every other song for Bernadette. I don't care. Like,
Mm.
but if I had to pick one, sure, I'm gonna pick "Wonderful Baby," track 11. That one can take a hike. It doesn't really matter. Nothing compares
T-
to Bernadette.
Yeah. I
That's it.
I think if I
That's
had
it.
to, I would kill one of the Monkees songs.
Yeah, I could see that. I could
You
see
were
that.
you were saying there about how he in that song he's almost yelling,
Hmm.
which was actually something that I picked up on throughout most of this album. they are like production wise, it's clipping like regularly clipping out as you're listening to this album. Like I'm very interested in learning more and seeing if I can dig up any information about their recording process, because it's not a very smooth sounding album, because you can, I mean, they are maxing out, their panels and their limiters, and you can hear like the crackliness of their voices very regularly, but also instruments too. Like they redlined a lot of this stuff, which to me kind of, it gave it a lot. It gave it some interesting character. It also gave it a lot of it gave it a lot of dynamic range. Like the quiet parts were quiet and the loud parts were loud. So I mean, when you're recording and you're clipping, that's usually something you try to correct. You try to back things down. You don't want things maxing out like that. But on this album, it worked and it sounded good. It sounded cool.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I gave it a 5. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 3.5. I enjoyed it. I could see myself going back to this given the right mood. It's not, Motown still isn't really my thing, but I liked this pretty decent.
As you should. As you should. Plus, it's got one of the greatest singers' names of all time, Levi Stubbs.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's it. I don't know if you know, that's the male version of Daisy Dukes also. That's my dad's joke. You got Daisy Dukes and Levi Stubbs, obviously. Cut off jeans.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, yeah. That one was over my head until you explained it, but I get it. It's pretty good.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. That was the Four Tops Reach Out at 4:29. And at 4:28 is Husker Du's New Day Rising. This album was released on January 14th of 1985 from SST Records. It is 40 minutes and 49 seconds long. This is the third studio album from Husker Du from Minnesota. That's all I got to introduce this one. I mean, I don't know. I had heard this band's name before, but I don't remember them being on the classic rock radio, which I guess classic rock radio in the mid 80s, when I was in probably our early teens was where I feel like classic rock radio started to play more Guns N' Roses. They started to get into some of the grunge stuff. You'd hear Pearl Jam on there every once in a while, things like that. I'm sure there are formats where they played Husker Du, but I don't remember hearing this at all.
That wasn't on 95 The Met.
No, it was not. 95 The Met. Amazing. Yeah, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean it's punk. I kept going back. Yeah, I mean I kept going back to the Black Flag album from way back, because I guess, Husker Du was more of a kind of a hardcore band initially. And this album, I think, was a step more towards the more melodic sort of stuff. You can see how this is a progression in punk towards what it would become later in the 90s and early 2000s ish. But this, I mean, the drummer, I think, was the most interesting part to me. He had, some good clean fills, held it down pretty well, but otherwise, outside of that, it not only was it just not very interesting, it still kind of like that Black Flag album. It was just muddy and everything was just kind of mixed together. They clearly took no care to, make this sound good. But I think that's, that's the punk.
Yeah, that's punk, baby.
Yeah, right? Like that's the punk ethos. Like, it's not cool to care, so we can't care. So it's just going to sound how it sounds. And it sounds like somebody sat in a basement where they were rehearsing and just held up a microphone and let them play. Punk's all about attitude and talent. It's not necessarily about talent or proficiency. It's about the attitude of it. And this definitely has a whole lot of attitude. So,
Well, Speaking of talent and proficiency, I will say that Greg Norton has a killer mustache in some of the promotional pictures
Really?
from this band. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah,
No.
I mean they're like their band picture on Wikipedia is a timeless picture. Like honestly, it looks like it could have been taken last week.
They could be some
And it's
hipsters
from 1986. Like they have a very not that like black leather dog collar choker kind of punk.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just
got like a
looked that up.
yeah, they've got like a Midwest punk kind of thing. Just like yeah, we're just gonna do what we want, which I can appreciate.
The guy on the right there could be Wayne from Letterkenny.
Yes, it could be
tucked in button down shirt.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And then I'm looking at Greg Norton was the bassist, Grant Hart was the guy in the middle, and then Bob Mold is oh dude, that guy played guitars and sang. The guy with the tucked in plaid shirt played guitars and sang. No shit. Also, props to them for not putting the singer in the middle. Love it when a band's promo does that.
yeah.
Well, okay, in fairness, Grant Hart was a drummer and vocalist, but still, not the front man. One thing I did notice on a song, on a couple songs, especially "Celebrated Summer," was that the punk kind of has that generalization of being like those, all those combinations of power chords, right? Like four, however you want to stack four power chords together, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
In listening to a song like "Celebrated Summer," they definitely took more creativity, so it wasn't kind of that constant chord progression over and over and over again. Like if you think of like a Ramones song, sometimes it's even three power chords just played over and over and over again. So I can see where they got a little bit more creative. I can appreciate that. Yeah, I would agree that a lot of this just kind of blended together. While there's clearly song structures there, it didn't hold my attention enough to try to really get into it. So I let this one wash over me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about this on another record coming up. The bio for this band says that they started as a punk rock band and then kind of transitioned into, they started as a hardcore punk band, came into punk rock, and then ultimately got into alternative rock. And I could see where they're going with this. Like this, like you said, this isn't Black Flag. It's not the Ramones. It doesn't quite fit in that way, which I would imagine is why they didn't get as much attention as some of those other bands did. They're harder to quantify, and we're gonna hear from Lucinda Williams up, and that was my thesis on her stuff. It's just like I don't even know what to think of this.
Yeah,
I don't know where to put it, which is, it similar to Bad Bunny. They don't owe a shit. Like, it's not their job for us to be able to digest it and quantify it and characterize it. It stands alone. The cheese stands alone. New band name, I called it. Yeah, I don't know. I would give this one a 2. I don't need to hear it again.
That's exactly where I was with it, too. I gave it a 2. Don't need to hear it again. It is what it is.
One thing that I'm finding about, especially a lot of the last couple of albums, is if anyone out there is listening or watching or whatever, like we can't be inspiring people to check out these albums. Like
I
don't know, man. We're not in the record business, so whatever.
We're not trying to sell any albums here.
Right, exactly. All right, that was Husker Don't in at 428, New Day Rising. All right, Kyle, we're more than halfway through this week's installment, which is the time where we typically take a break and talk about what other things we've been listening to. At the top of this episode, we talked about how this doesn't have to be a job. We can still pursue our other interests. What else have you been listening to these past couple weeks?
Well, so I think the one thing about, scaling back to 5 albums has freed up time to listen to some more things. And I've definitely been listening to quite a bit of other music from this list. One thing that I don't know what it is. Every once in a while, I keep telling myself that I need to go back and give Sleep Token a listen again. every time I do it, I'm like, nope, not for me. but on paper it should be. Like on paper it is the kind of
Agreed.
thing that I probably would like. And every time I go back and listen to it, I end up just like, nah, nope, not for me. But I did listen to it again. I gave it another try. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I've given it a try. And I kind of, in the last week or so, I'm like, all right, like, I get it. It still isn't like sucking me in and really holding me. But, you know, they released a new song. They've got a new album coming out. So I'll give them a try again. And I did. I think for me, that, you know, they have a whole gimmick with, you know, the way they dress and perform and the costumes and all that. And in my head, and I don't think this is necessarily fair.
You want to like it?
Yeah, I want to like it. But to me, the gimmick doesn't match the sound of the band. The band is there's a whole lot more pop and, you know, lighter elements to the band than the image makes me want. Like, not to say that there isn't, like, you know, heavy aggressive sound to the band. There certainly is, and I like those elements, but I don't know, there's just a disconnect for me between the gimmick, the image, and the music, and I just haven't quite gotten there yet. But I have put a bit of time into it again this week, and I have generally enjoyed it a little bit more this time through. I don't know that I'm going to like repeatedly listen, but
I'm gonna play. I don't know the name of this person, what their actual job is, but you know how on House, on the show House, he was really good at like asking the questions and figuring out what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna be House for you right now.
All right.
Is it that you wish they went harder, or that it was like they're leaning too far into this sort of character-ish stuff? Like you wish it was simpler, less produced, or that the visuals were like their ethos were less to let the music be on its own more? Like what do you think it is?
That's a good question. So basically, would I prefer the gimmick if the music were harder and more aggressive, or would I prefer the music if the gimmick
Yeah, like do you wish they were more like black metal, like dirtier, like cuz they're very produced and polished. Everything is mixed to perfection. Like
yeah.
It's not even an industrial sound. Like it is a like machine sound almost. Like what is that what turns you off? Or
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know. It does feel very polished. I think you hit it there. It's very polished, very highly produced.
'cause they've got a mix of like electronic and some hardcore metal, like,
and that's the sort of thing that I've actually started to realize that I really like is kind of the combination of like of live instrumentation, of people playing, you know, guitars and bass and drums and singing, but mixing in some of the more programmed elements. I guess I wanted it to be slightly more Nine Inch Nails ish.
Okay, so I have this is a throwback to one of those times, and I'll be bummed if you know this. Happy if you know this band, and like bummed at the same time. I think this is where my spectrum of music is like I'm like a sommelier. So sommelier, like, you know what I mean? Like I think I'm okay. Have you ever heard of the band Enter Shikari?
No.
Okay. Enter Shikari, Take to the Skies. That's the album you need to check out. Can you listen, if you pull this up, can you listen to it right now?
Yeah.
If we can cut this part out. This is bigger than the show right now.
Yeah, it's a reaction video. We won't be able to monetize the video though.
Well, shit.
All right. So Tyler has encouraged me to check out a song. So we're going to do a live reaction video, and this is the band Enter Shikari. The album is Take to the Skies. It's from 2007. So these guys have been around for a while then, huh? They're not new. So we're gonna start right at the first song. It's called Enter Shikari,
Uh-huh.
right? All right, here we go.
You hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. They played at Warped Tour in Buffalo in probably like 2008 or 9 on a very small stage. Yeah, you hear it.
That's a big swell. It's big.
Huh? I listened to this album a lot when I was in grad school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. It took me a couple listens, but then I got into it, and that like it just made me like ready to move and like work and get shit done. Like I also need to find, because I've seen a resurgence of one of the other songs, because there's a very famous sort of like bit to it. They're English, by the way.
Okay. Well, so is Sleep Token.
Yep. This song is it deserves all the plays it's got. Yeah.
So, as we were listening to that, I was starting to think about where that, like I was saying, I like the heavier live instrumentation, like heavy guitars and screaming, mixed with some of the electronic program stuff, and I realized where that comes from for me. It's a very specific. It's a very specific thing. It is about halfway through the song Death of Seasons, the AFI song from Sing the Sorrow, where they get through the second chorus and then they break down, and there's like a little bit of an electronic beat there, and he screams through it. That I remember listening to that when we were young and being like, oh, this is it. Like this I like.
I'm listening to it right now. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I guess to go back to your question about would I rather they sound more like the Gimmick or look more like they sound? I don't think I care. It just feels like they're on the fence.
You just wish it was different.
Yeah. I just wish they would pick one of those things and do that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Because if as soon as you said like that you liked the industrial stuff, I was like, okay, I think he's gonna like Enter Shikari, because they have that electronic stuff and there's just enough in there, and sometimes they use it really well, and sometimes I think it does come off a little cheesy, but yeah, great.
So that's what.
You've been checking out Sleep Token, and I gave you Enter Shikari, and then we're all gonna vibe to Death of Seasons after this.
Yeah,
great.
So that's what I've been listening to. What have you been listening to?
Free Jesse Lacey, man. My man has been freed. Whether anybody gave him permission or not, brand new is back, baby. No, I don't know. Brand New is one of my favorite bands, like one of my unsung favorite bands, in that I don't talk about them a whole lot. They're not actually a band that I like routinely go to when I think about my favorite bands, but probably because they took so long between albums, and their albums have been so different, and sometimes their albums don't make any sense. Yeah, but to see clips of them playing this weekend, I think I can't remember if they were in Tennessee or wherever it was.
They were in Nashville and Dallas, I think.
I mean, and we're all older. Some of the songs were tuned down probably another half step or a full step, which I don't give a shit, but I could tell that they were different. To be at a Brand New show is like, and to sing along to Sowing Season, this... I'm not your lover, I'm not your family. Yeah, like that part. Oh my God.
Yep.
It's so good. And the way that, like, one of my criticisms, because I like the recordings of them so much, is that Jesse doesn't sing, he doesn't say true to the recorded versions. His melodies will kind of wander off a little bit, and his phrasing changes, and sometimes he changes a couple lyrics. which makes it. I love to sing along at live shows, so that throws you a little bit, it takes you out of that for a second. But, dude, I love nothing more than to be on the floor at a Brand New show, man, and to see that they're playing in Rochester. I don't give a shit if it's at the arena or not. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do everything I can to get a floor ticket. I'm sure it won't be terrible. Well, I don't know. It might be hard.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't get right on it when they go on sale, who knows? I mean, you might be buying on the
Yeah, and
resale market, and that's, yeah.
I don't want to do that. But I didn't see. I mean, the closest they're in Cleveland. So yeah. So this Rochester show is gonna pull. It's gonna pull. I mean,
Yeah.
and Brand New hasn't toured in 7 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna pull Toronto. It's gonna
Yeah.
pull Syracuse, Northern Pennsylvania, all of Western New York. Um, it's gonna pull, well, maybe Albany. I mean, they're playing in like in Boston. I mean, it's gonna pull
Yeah.
Ottawa, Montreal. Like it's gonna pull big
It's,
groups.
and people will travel to see them at this point.
Yes, yes. Um,
That's
and I haven't been to a concert at the Blue Cross in Rochester for a long time, but I will gladly take an Uber that day.
definitely,
So
definitely
yeah,
take
I've
an
been.
Uber because parking sucks there.
Yeah, no shit. Um, yeah, so I've been listening to Brand New vicariously through concert videos. And if we can just take a moment and talk about how whether it's droids or iPhones in particular, man, the recording ability of those things, audio, to be in a bad sounding space and to like auto mix it to where you can hear it. Man, we've come a long way from like
so
digital cameras.
Oh,
And,
it's so funny that you bring that up because I was thinking almost literally the exact same thing this weekend watching a couple of those videos because I was thinking back to like sneaking those disposable cameras into
I remember you
into
showing
sh-
me that stuff.
into
Yeah,
shows.
yeah,
Take the picture and then you have to wind it to advance the film.
yeah,
Man,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would love to see. You know, the last time I saw Brand New, I've seen Brand New once. I only saw them once. I saw them. I saw them in the fall. I want to say it was the fall of 2003 or the spring of 2004. They played an outdoor show at Binghamton University on tour for
Mm,
Deja and Tendu. And
mm-hmm.
it was just such a killer show. Like it was so good. The one thing that I always remember about that show were kids like moshing to Soko Amaretto Lime. Like
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing here?
What a time to be alive.
It's the acoustic song "Chill" for a couple minutes. But yeah, no, it's such a great show.
Yeah, I've probably seen Brand New. I have to ask Meg. Probably between 7 and 10 times. Um, because they've played some really great shows and some really questionable ones. I mean, like the Bill. Like I've seen they
Oh,
played a college show at UB that two of my friends and I went to, and we will remember that show forever because it was a true college show. It was like 5 hours long, and this random mix of local bands and bigger national acts, and nothing made sense. And then Brand New was there. And it was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had at a concert. I remember sitting there watching them. They also played at the fairgrounds here in Rochester, which is literally a half sphere. So you can imagine how that sounded. It
mm-hmm.
just sounded like shit. But it was Brand New, and I remember going nuts to DeGausser there. Yeah, and played with Manchester Orchestra a few times. Yeah, I've seen them enough to where I know, like, dude, I'm gonna go see him again. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and we're also at the point in our lives where it's like, when are they going to tour next? Will they ever tour
Well,
again?
yeah,
It certainly felt like they weren't going to tour again.
yeah,
Um, that was a very long segment. Have fun editing that one.
yeah.
All right, Kyle, back to our beaten path here. Where is it? The 427th greatest album of all time, according to Billboard magazine. Billboard. I just read it off Wikipedia. I'm sorry. According to Rolling Stone magazine. Sorry, Rolling Stone, don't sue us. Is Al Green's sixth album entitled "Call Me." This album was released in April of 1973. It was released on High Records, HI. That's it. Produced by Willie Mitchell and Al Green. It was recorded in Memphis, Tennessee. Let me lead this one off just for a second, if I may.
Sure.
We've talked about this. I'm not going to belabor the point. Previously, we had I think Al Green's greatest hits album, which there are a few songs from this album on there, including the title track, Call Me. I fundamentally just have a problem when, like, especially in this close proximity, we're doing a greatest hits and then an album that the greatest hits pulled from. I don't know why, other than like a full-on fidelity to the voting process, they would have done this. And while I respect that fidelity, I wish they hadn't. I wish they would have given us something different. I listened to it. Whatever. What do you think?
I am very much in agreement. Listening to this made me double down on my dislike of the inclusion of greatest hits and anthology albums on this list. I generally liked this album. In a middle of the road, like I gave it a 3, just, to say I generally liked this album. I liked this album significantly more than I liked that greatest hits album, and I don't understand why they felt the need to include both. And again, like you said, so close to each other. I thought this album was a really good showcase of who Al Green was, I don't know, what his music was. Personally, I really liked the music. I can't stand his voice though. His voice just it's just not for me. I really enjoyed the music on this though. But yeah, I mean, otherwise it really, I don't get it. I don't get why they included that greatest hits album, other than, yeah, like you said, maybe that must have just been legitimately highly voted enough to be included on this list. But at the same time, did they not exercise any editorial discretion?
Exactly. And I mean, Here I Am, Come and Take Me I thought that was a strong song. The other two singles that charted from this album were You Ought to Be With Me, which to me is a clunker. Like, maybe I'm assuming that at the time people really liked it. It's not a timeless song. It doesn't really stick with me. I think Here I Am is a much better song. And then, as I mentioned, the title track, Call Me, was the third single, which I think in order of familiarity for people, it would be Here I Am, top. Most people will recognize that one. Then probably Call Me, if for no other reason than just the intro. And then You Ought to Be With Me is probably the last one. So I don't even see this as being like a timeless album. Like if you stack this one up against the Four Tops, like,
yeah,
I think people will generally have the Four Tops as a better album. And then we're not the producers or the critics that voted on this thing, so there's probably other reasons. This has been on the list since its inception. It actually was ranked in 2003. It was ranked 289, so it did fall backwards on the revised lists. There's a ton of musicians on this one. He wrote some of the songs with a couple of other people, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, I don't know. I might have come into this with more gusto, having not gone through the greatest hits, but I don't want to talk about that anymore. So I'm need to hear it again.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Great.
Yep.
That was Al Green's "Call Me." No thanks. We're hanging up, Al. The last album we're going to talk about tonight comes from Lucinda Williams at 426. It is her self-titled album, Lucinda Williams, released in 1988 from Rough Trade Records. It is, well, I'm going to skip that part for right now. It's her third album. It's 38 minutes and 35 seconds long. The part I was going to skip is basically what I wanted to talk about. It's that this album is labeled as alternative country, Americana, blues, and roots rock, and none of that makes sense. I was reading about this record and her in general. She's considered by some to be one of, if not the most genius American songwriters of all time. I saw that in some literature. When I think, I mean, songwriters are songwriters. Don't need to gender anything. But if I think of female songwriters that at least have that aura and that mystique about them, I literally had never heard of her. I think of the Carly Simons and the Joan Baez's and I digress. She doesn't hold that place in my mind, which another theme of this episode, that's not her fault. That is mine. She was talked about for not being country enough for country radio. Or no, I guess it would be she was too rock and roll for country radio and then too country for rock radio. So when I was listening to some of these songs, and specifically when I got to the one song I recognized, which is Passionate Kisses, I thought, oh yeah, this is what like Delilah would have played on her radio show, or what John Tesh would have played on his radio show.
Yeah.
That really like offensive to no one, broad sweeping mass appeal. This is music. Like, you know what I mean?
It's coworker music.
Yeah. Yes. Dentist office music.
Yeah.
Like, this is,
it's something that you can put on at the office and nobody's going to be like offended by it. You probably got that one coworker who's like, yes, this is amazing. And everybody else is like, whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, what did you think?
Yeah, roughly the same. I thought this is a name that I had heard, but couldn't have told you anything about or named a song. I didn't recognize any of these songs. And I think my big takeaway was she was like maybe with this album 7 or 8 years too early, because this is Sheryl Crow, right?
Sheryl Crow.
Yeah,
it's basically Sheryl Crow.
This is Sheryl Crow. And I think you talking about how to classify genre wise what this is I mean it's country in the same way that Husker Du album was punk. Like if you had to call it, like if I had to call it something, that's what it would be. But there's a lot of blues here. There's a lot of, just kind of general straight up rock. I think the thing that bugged me about it though was that there were multiple points throughout this album where it verged on having a little bit of an edge, a little bit of an attitude, but just kept falling back away from that. Like it was like she was afraid to be too edgy or be too to go too far with the music. It just kept falling back into that Delilah easy listening sort of thing, where if she had pushed it a little bit more, it probably would have been a little bit more interesting to me. But this is a John Tesh album. Like this is, I think you nailed it with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's again, it was fine, but that's the best I can say about it, really, personally.
Yeah, I mean the other song that stands out is "Change the Locks," which
Yes.
was
Yep.
pretty widely appreciated.
Yep.
Tom Petty covered that one for a movie soundtrack in '96. People seem to like that one. It charted again in 2000. Oh, sorry, it charted in 1996, and then again in 2015. Yeah, that song was okay,
I like
but all in all, this is another two from me. Like I'm all set. I don't need to hear it again.
yeah.
I don't think it's gonna grow on me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I went with a 3. I was feeling a little generous because this is the sort of thing that I think I could put on in a situation where this had enough in it that on paper it would appeal to me. It had some good guitar work in it that was again enjoyable to listen to, but it was, I mean, it's vanilla ice cream, I guess. Like, sure,
Yeah,
I'll take some ice cream, but I mean, but it's the inoffensive. It's it's the kind of bland, nothing terribly exciting, but something of interest, I guess. But yeah, I went with a 3, but not a very strong 3.
like the music which drifts between the lonesome worlds of country and blues, the lyrics can't be pinned down. They speak of the ambivalence that shades love and loss. Delilah. Yeah. All right. That was Lucinda Williams' self-titled album at 426. All right, Kyle. So this is the usually the part in the night where we talk about our "Got One Better," which, when we cut the albums in half, is harder to do. Besides the Enter Shikari spiel and Birdwalk we went on earlier, because Enter Shikari is better than Sleep Token, but not part of this list. Maybe they should be. Um, I am our sole survivor designee for "Got One Better" today.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I could come up with, I mean, all in all, besides the Four Tops, I didn't have anything that really struck me with this. So this is one of those scenarios where, like, I could name a bunch of albums that I think are better, but the challenge is to come up with something that relates. Okay. Husker Du is from Minneapolis, and there's another band called Tiny Moving Parts from Minneapolis that I've grown to appreciate over the last couple years. And when I looked up their picture, just a reference for this, I'm also struck with the fact that this is a trio. They're playing what many would call Midwest emo, a little bit of mathiness in there. There's definitely some finger tapping at times, but also a very unassuming trio when you look at them. A great mustache, long hair, and then just a guy. Much like that picture of Husker Du we talked about. They've got a bunch of albums that they tour quite a bit, especially in Asia recently. I've noticed. They've got an album called Swell that I really like. Caution, I think, is the one on that album that stands out and I like a lot. But I don't know, they're frenetic at sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They're quick. They're emotional. Sometimes I wouldn't call it. It's not screaming, but not clean vocals either. A good mix. A good mix. I would check out Tiny Moving Parts if you wanted something with a little Midwest flavor like Husker Du.
I do. I am familiar with Swell. That's a good album. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. They're one that I put on kind of while I was working and just listened to them a lot. And there were some of their songs stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Their album Breathe is really good too. I would say that if I had a critique, it would be, and this is a weak one because I don't mind it, but I haven't been able to identify like shifts in their sound from album to album.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're like I'm not gonna sit here and claim that they are the same, but they definitely are good at a thing and they play within that realm, which
Yeah.
I appreciate. So
Hmm.
um, yeah. So anyways, that's my got one better. Tiny Moving Parts. In this episode, we shift formats and take a look at 5 albums from 430 through 426 on the Rolling Stone Greatest Albums of All Time list. This set of albums is mostly meh, but Tyler hands out his second 5-rated album on the list. Took a long detour during our What Else We're Listening To segment, and the stands will still come for us, but we still don't like Bad Bunny. I'm Tyler and he's Kyle. Let's get to it.